Welcome to the fifth episode of the Andaze show. It's an honor to have you back to listening every Monday at 10 a.m. PST. This episode, we are interviewing special guest, Underrated Mastermind, or Rashad. Welcome to the show, man. What's up?
What's up? What's up? What's up, man? Thank you for having me on the show today.
It's an honor to have you on as a guest on the show, for sure.
Yeah.
So, before we start, Depp is not here because this episode was basically on a whim. He will be here next episode. Depp, his scheduling is off, but he's not gone from the show, even though he's been gone past two episodes. Just to let you know. So before we start, can you give like a little introduction to like people who don't know you on the show, all these listeners, you know?
All right. All right. My name is Rashad, also known as Rashad Z on YouTube, and also the Underrated Mastermind, both on Instagram, on Twitter. I consider myself as a multimedia artist. Do not only music, but I also do CG work, 3D modeling, and I also work with game development as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I currently go under a site and brand name under Z Studios. That is a personal, not only portfolio, but it's also like a game development site that shows off my now it shows off my products that I basically made and also music that I also created.
Mm-hmm. So you talk about being an artist. I heard your album. It came out. Your latest new album. It's called Hornet, right? Your beat
Yeah, yes,
tape.
sir.
It
Yes,
came
sir.
out last summer around that time when like Rupture dropped, I believe.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So just a little bit into that because I know some people haven't heard the album, like most albums. But when I heard it yesterday, it's like you information about this interview. What kind of made you go towards that, kind of old school to like modern, more like hip hop with the hi hats and the kicks? So it's like kind of jazzy sound on the album itself.
Well, when it came to the development of Hornet, the main goal when it came to coming up with that was learning from my previous two beat tapes that I made. I mean, I currently have like four beat tapes I originally made. I think it was called the first one I made was Life, and that was on SoundCloud.
Mm.
I didn't really like that too much. The second one, Sanity, that one it was a learning process, but it also kind of showed me. It said like not to rush all my beats and such. I mean, when it comes to beat making, you always kind of have to like find the mood when you like have to come up with such creative process in it. And when I looked at my archive for like when I made Sanity, that kind of showed me like, yeah, I feel like I kind of rushed that one. And I learned from that one to make my third beat tape, M3B, or this is a mental breakdown
Mm.
3. So I learned that and I used whatever I learned to build up my archives for my music archives. And what I learned from that and progressively made beats within like the whole year and see what came up with that project led into what I made for Hornet. Hornet kind of was like showing like, all right, I know what kind of lessons I learned from making M3B,
Mm.
and I'm just gonna see what can I use that I like from M3B. For example, like tracks like She Stole My Jamba Juices. I like the bounciness to it. I like the kind of like I think it's just the bounciness to it. Kind of like had that New Orleans kind of trappishness to it, and I kind of transferred it over into some tracks.
So talking about that, would you say that Hornet is like the successor to like every project you made, like the the ultimate project, like in terms of now and your music like progress as an artist, like your ultimate project of everything combined and just everything you learned?
Currently, is that currently
Yeah.
I'd say I'm very satisfied with how Hornet came out compared to the other three beat tapes because there's like a couple, maybe even like nearly the whole album that I really liked about it. Like for example, like my intro track, "Good Morning." I always have that as my alarm clock when I get up in the morning. I said like, yeah, I always have like that. It has like that good satisfactory vibe to the morning because it's like, all right, It's time to get up. Let's get this bread. We gonna have a good day today. Yes, sir.
So you
Yes,
always
sir.
feed yourself creatively in terms of just like every day you wake up, like even as an example, waking up at your alarm clock. So like you're always like into that mindscape, or not mindscape, but like that process of thinking, like like being creative, applying it to game designing, you said earlier,
Yeah,
or
you always.
CG or music, as an art, like writing. So like, do
Yeah,
you apply yourself to that like every single day in terms of just like 24/7, like that? You're always like into that like mind, or do you have like certain periods of time where like I have to go into the zone to like do whatever you want to do?
the best answer I could probably say is yes to both answers. To both answers. Uh, Majority of the time, I said like I would usually be getting up, and I said like, all right, I got this energy pumping into me. Today is gonna be a great day. This is like
Hmm.
I was just like, I'm ready to start my day up. But there'll be
Yeah.
certain times, specifically when I'm doing like game design or like when I'm making like demo tracks or something like that I upload to my Instagram. I always try to have to be in that mood to have like this certain mindset because
Hmm.
there'll be certain times that I just don't feel like creating at that point because I'm looking through my sounds and such. I said like, nothing's hitting right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing's right hitting right now. It's like, do I need to chop something up to
Yeah.
get to a sound that I might want to use for later or use now, and I build upon it. But it's always be an iterative process throughout the day, or maybe even during the whole week when it comes to like me being in that specific field of energy.
Mm. So it's like a case by case scenario.
Yeah.
So for me, like just like as an example, as an analogy, when I made Rupture, I definitely like at the latter half of making that record, I was definitely like every day I woke up, I was feeling it. But I think like the very beginning of like starting the project, making some demos, I had to be in the zone. Where like I think most people who are like creative people, like who do like their thing, like huge respect to you, and like that's what we like try to like push on the show, like pursue your creative passions. I think sometimes that you're just not feeling it, and like you just can't like push it too much, or you'll find yourself with mediocrity. So for me,
Exactly.
yeah. So for me, it's kind of finding that like that zone where like you're kind of feeling it, and you have to like kind of push yourself a little bit more. I know it just like kind of retconned, or it retconned what I just said, but I think sometimes in certain cases, whether you're making a game like Rashad here, or like music or drawing, you kind of have to push yourself in some cases to further, improvement on or work on like a project you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part. I guess that's probably like the I guess that's kind of like the self discipline when it comes to like creation in general. This
Mm.
is like you need to learn to like kind of manage to push that creativity out of you, but also not burn you out at the same time when you're using that creative energy you have.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like a hard thing to find, because sometimes I found myself just like trying to push myself into, we're gonna call it the zone right now, the zone, the zone, where like you're really feeling whatever you're doing, like writing, or like making a game, or like me like making music. Um, it's definitely a self discipline thing that you said earlier, and it's just like you got it's the more you do it, it sounds like you're learning like some like move or something from like an anime, but it's like but it's definitely learned over time. It's just like, do I like do this, and that comes with like anything in terms of creation, because obviously I want you guys to have, like pursue your creative passions, even though like there's definitely things that stop it, school and work and stuff. But on this show, I just want to talk to people that have learned like from like these like things. So like another bullet point I had in my notes, just like for this interview, is like how did quarantine affect you? Because I believe you had a song on Hornet, the beat tape you had, called Quarantine, right?
Yeah. When it came to I think when it comes in general, when it came to me making the BT during like quarantine, I was kind of this is like it was kind of like a in between both like motivation to like there was like a period of me that's like I just didn't feel like doing anything. I just kind of like
Yeah.
feel burnt out from school. I even felt burnt out during school during this time since everything was being pushed out to like online classes and I'm still at home. I
Mm.
mean, my energy is kind of like all over the place. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out like that momentum in my system in a way. So it was kind of like the feeling of kind of like the uneasiness, kind of like the fluctuation between that's part of me when during that time. So
Yeah. And I definitely the beginning of quarantine for me is like I was very like iffy, 50-50 and things. Because school, everything was online, and all your social things were kind of like gone. So you kind of have like no breaks to do anything and just like to rest your head in terms of just like relaxing, your friends, obviously, because of COVID. Like I said earlier. So it was kind of like, what do I do here? Because when I made, again, Rupture, it was like, because I started, because what happened to me, Rupture, I like made demos and stuff, trying to push myself into the zone. And then I took like a break because I had like an artist block. And then in April to like June, I finished the album up. And I think it came out July. I finished it in like early July, like right as about to come out. So for me, the beginning of quarantine was like kind of like thinking things because I only had like two songs out at the time. I was like, what do I do on this project? And just in general, not even just like me on music, but like any like project you have, you kind of like have to think about it because obviously you don't want to rush things or mediocrity comes, don't like it. And
mm,
I think quarantine myself, it definitely gave me a time to rethink things in terms of like what do I want to do? How am I gonna like treat these things? How am I gonna like go for these things in terms of like what's going on? It just in the world right now, with COVID and everyone's home. So like even though we're still kind of quarantine, classes are going back. People are going back to school and stuff, and more workers and people are like kind of adjusting. Now it's been like a year since COVID started and lockdown, but I think quarantine is still kind of a thing, so that's why I'm talking about it now. So
yeah.
for you, how did you balance your time in terms of like I want to do that, I want to do that, and I want to do that, all from your home, because of quarantine?
It's crazy. I still kind of have that as a problem right now when it comes to like balancing out with my creative stuff because currently now I'm balancing school, balancing trying to do commissions and doing my own personal projects while also trying to do music as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to like juggle all these kind of creative activities because like I like this is in general, I like being creative. I like being able to do like other things that is just not in my field, but I also like to do stuff that I know that I like doing as a way other than like just doing music, but also doing like the arts part, the game development part.
Mm-hmm.
But I also could say like when it comes to me as of right now, and this is kind of a learning point from like being in quarantine now, is that like I'm gonna have to find that balance. I'm gonna have to find that discipline, that
Yeah.
organization part
The
of me to
time
say like, all
management.
right, yeah, that is it. Time managing myself to like execute one thing that I want to do at X amount of time and such right then and there. And also another thing I kind of had to include within that time management is procrastinating. Procrastinating is I think kind of like
Yeah.
hinders a lot of creativity
Yeah.
within anybody. Matter of fact, I don't think it's just creativity in general.
It's just
It
like
happens
things
with
like
anything.
deadlines here for school or just like like normal things like take out the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think everyone procrastinates, especially during this time where you don't want to do anything, just watch anime. I feel it. I do that, but I think this time, I think like looking years, like in the future, I think we'll look back. Like even though it was a horrible time, um, um, you know, all the dark stuff aside, I think that some people, will learn how to like we'll have more self discipline and just like how to manage your time more. I know it's really like vague in terms of just the whole COVID thing. It's a very small thing of learning, compared to everything else. But I think balancing your time is a really big thing for like, creators and just people in general, obviously, and having schedules and stuff. Um, but as a creator in terms of music, podcasts, and all the stuff, it's definitely hard to juggle. For you, Rashad, it must be really difficult. Everything you're doing. So I commend you. All your stuff, gaming, music, artist, writer.
Yeah, I really
That
appreciate that.
yeah, it probably takes so much time out of your day, but I think you just gotta strive for more time. You gotta work for more time, work to free up time to do these creative passions. Because what I'm saying on the show, when I talk about pursuing your creative passions, I don't mean drop your job in terms of just like, quit, go do that. Obviously, if you do succeed, and oh my God, this is a success story, you know. But what I'm
Hmm.
saying is that you gotta work hard to find to find time to relax, to have fun, and pursue your creative passions. I know we say that all the time on the show, but that's the thing I really want to put in people's heads as the first season runs up, and just the entire show listening to it, that pursuing your creative passions is amazing, especially in this quarantine time. Where everyone's stuck at home. You know, a lot less now. Obviously, it's March 26th, 2021 while we're recording this, but obviously at the end of this, I just want people to know that that pursuing your creative passions again, that it's worth it. Even if it's a small time, even if you're painting, you're writing, you're making a game, like my friend Rashad here, or making an album, a song, or anything. It's worth it because you find so much self success within it. Even if people hate it, what are you gonna do about that? The
Yeah.
fact that you made it and the fact that you worked hard to make it, obviously, maybe you'll make another album, another book, another game that will just go crazy in terms of people's
Yes.
opinions and stuff. So, in general, idea with balancing, juggling all these things, Rashad, what are some lessons learned, like doing all these creative passions, in terms of just like handling these things? Because obviously, it's tough. Doing all these things, especially in your case, or just a couple things like me. What have you learned in just this past year or just the past couple years of doing these creative passions that you're pursuing?
There's a couple lessons that I can probably think of right now is that try to break everything down into small pieces that you can possibly can to make it everything more digestible and more easier for you to understand. For example, like I have this issue when I'm making games, specifically when it comes to programming. Programming is, oh my goodness. When it comes to programming, I always that is, it was most of the time I always never figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, and
Mm-hmm.
when I do know what I'm trying to break down, I still have trouble doing it. But eventually, when I break down to like smaller areas or something like that, it kind of makes it easier to like understand what am I trying to achieve when I'm trying to write. Like, for example, just basic player logic, like movement or anything like that. Just break it down to like small bits and pieces to say, like, if the player needs to go left or something like that, program it to go left.
Yeah.
Needs to go right, program it to go left. I mean not left. Program it to go right.
Mm.
But it all comes down to like you just need to like kind of like practice with it and take your time trying to like see what you're trying to like get into.
Mm.
And I think a consequence of doing that, if you just trying to rush and try to like understand what you need to understand. And I think this is kind of like an unfortunate part of like the game industry itself. Like it's a quick industry. You're gonna have to like jump the gun
Yeah.
once you get in the industry because you gotta have to learn fast like everybody else do and get up to speed to whatever they else is working on. So for example, like I made this video like about a month ago called hold on, I think it was called it has to relate to hold on.
It's
It's
fine.
the it's the Godot is a Godot. This is a Godot and the suffering of 2 weeks or something around those lines.
Mm.
I had some major pushback on that video because I was using that game engine for 2 weeks and I was basically telling about my frustrations and issues when it comes to me being a programmer, not a programmer, but more or less an artist using another software called Unity.
Mm.
And when I moved to like that software called Godot, and it's a lot more lightweight to do, you're able to use more, well, not use more graphics, but it's a lot more lightweight when it comes to dealing with graphics and such.
Mm.
But I had some issues when it came to their inbuilt programming system and how they deal with like handling models, textures, all that extra stuff that would usually be coming into game engines. And I kind of got some pushback from that saying like, hey man, this is you doing X, Y, and Z wrong, and you kind of blaming it in a way.
Mm.
So I'm kind of saying like maybe this video was kind of like a learning experience to say like maybe I need to go back and see what I did wrong or something like that. This is like always take your time and break things down to see what am I doing wrong and what you need to like
Mm.
see how you can handle certain things.
So, building off that, not even just the game analogy, the example you used, but it's just finding those small steps. Because for me, when I was building this podcast, um, I'm a person that does everything at like short term notice. Like right now, I figure out all the details. But once I I still kind of do that sometimes, but I've figured out to like kind of go slower, and figure out the small step, go small steps at a time. Because if you rush everything, because everything's gonna go off, everything's gonna go broken, and it's gonna happen with the show. The show got really delayed and stuff. But
Yeah.
if you go small steps at a time, the more progress you have in the long run, because you have everything figured out and stuff. And not even just like a podcast like this or a video, just like maybe like we'll take it like music, an album. Do small steps at a time at your own pace. At the end, you'll be more satisfied because you did everything. Do not. My problem now is that social media always pushes stuff. As a joke, obviously I'm
Yes.
like, where's the album? For these artists, but obviously we all want the album for your favorite artist. As a joke, but you do feel that like that tension sometimes. Like, shit, I haven't dropped this album. I haven't dropped an album in so long. Like, what do I do? But to
Mhm.
anyone out there doing something, that takes a lot of time, like an album, a novel, a game, even a painting, please go step by step and go at your own pace. Because in the end, if it's rushed, it's going to be mediocrity. No one's going to enjoy it as much as if you put all the time, and put your own pace into it, I saw a really good Kenny Beats tweet. Let me pull it up for a second. But it was talking about how like all these artists, they worked at their own pace. Um, in terms of just like I found it. In terms of just like doing their projects. I found the tweet right here. He said, "I know you heard me say it before, but Jay-Z got turned down from every major label at 27 for being too old. Mark Cuban had $0 at 28 years old. Bill Withers dropped his first album in his 40s. Don't let
Oh
social
yeah,
media
I
rush
seen
you. Be a legend at your own pace." And I love that tweet. I have that. I have that tweet bookmarked. to remind me every single day when I'm making a project, a song, that I have to go on my own pace, because social media definitely rushes things in terms of like, where's the album? Where's yada yada yada. And so obviously, I really appreciate the support in terms of me, but I had to slow down, and go like baby steps in terms of just like doing this project one by one by one, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that also kind of shows. It's like that with that quote that you just said. That kind of shows you kind of like the duality of like social media and how like it impacts people when it comes to their work process. Because
Mhm.
nowadays, folks want quantity over quality, and some folks kind of like want both at the same time. But if you want that latter option, you're gonna have to like wait for that artist to come up with that good quality. For
Yeah.
example, like J. Cole,
Kendrick
Kendrick,
Lamar, Drake.
specifically Kendrick, like he hasn't released the album since
What's like
damn. I'm like,
4
come
years
on,
ago?
man. It's like
It sucks,
I was
Like
like,
I would love a free
I'm
album
still
from
waiting
Kendrick.
for his album to drop, any kind of albums for him to drop. But when it comes to his process, when his stuff, he is a very creative person, and when it comes to like his music in general, you got to give him his space, and you're gonna
Yeah.
have to give him some time, maybe 6, maybe 5 years, just for him to come up with an album. But I'm just gonna let you know, whatever he comes out, Kung Fu Kenny knows he is gonna be producing some good albums.
Mhm.
He is gonna be producing some good albums.
Yeah, in terms like I see that like every single day. Where's the Kanye album? Where's the Kendrick album? It's definitely funny, and we all want the album. I see why. It's your favorite artist. You want more music from them, but as an artist, I've learned that it's tough making an album. In certain
It is
time,
tough.
and eventually when you rush things, you just find yourself in a creator's block, and back to like balancing your time, not even balancing your time, but like taking baby steps earlier, which you talked about. Please, again, go at your own pace, because you're gonna find that it's stressful to work and rush yourself. Obviously, some people are just push out a lot of things really fast because that's how they work. They're fast creators. Like Juice WRLD, he had so many songs in that short amount of time, like a year or two.
Mm.
You know, or I can take an example like no hate to like Just One Piece. He dropped so much, such a talented artist. That's how he works.
Mm.
Definitely a lot of songs at a time. Such a creative guy. Just like dropping all this stuff.
Uzi said Uzi and Cardi does a similar process too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's just finding your own pace in terms of just like music or creative passion, which we strive for on the show, which is to balance yourself as a creator in terms of finding your own pace and just having fun, because you have no fun while rushing things. Obviously, you'll never find fun in it. Maybe you'll find fun like my new album's out, let's go, but in the end, you just won't have as much satisfaction as you will if you do at your own pace, and you go slow or fast depending on you. So back to the gaming stuff. Obviously, you're a game designer and a CG artist. You make your own games. Example, Food Raiders Mini. I saw on your itch.io. That was cool.
Yeah,
That was cool. Very impressive, my boy. That was so cool because I have a lot of friends that are game designers, and it's super cool. Watch them like work and see their game come to life. And so,
yeah.
in terms of Food Raiders and just being a game designer, you have the studio, what, Z Studios, I believe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what's the backstory of you becoming a game designer?
Man, when it comes to being a game designer, this was kind of like a lifelong dream that I wanted to do when I was like a kid. This is like for me personally, what kind of made me wanted to get into game design was when I was playing like games like Need for Speed Underground 2 and Need for Speed Carbon on the GameCube.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, this is like I don't know because I had infatuation with cars when I was little. I really liked cars growing up. I used to like read the newspaper and say like with the like the dealerships and say like, "Oh, there's a Toyota in there. Oh, there's a Ford Mustang in there." And I was like, and I was kind of like had like the bridge between both video games and car culture. I was like, you know what? This is something I would like to see when I grow up. This is like, how do they get like the cars in the game? What kind of like environments do what kind of goes into the environments when it comes to like all the graphics and such? That's kind of like calling to the artist in me now. But when I look at now, when I came to like projects I do now in my CG art, that also comes down to my love of retro gaming now. Because
Mm-hmm.
nowadays with like the PS5 and Series X and S coming out, well, they already out, my bad. But with them being out and they kind of don't have no games, and I was kind of like falling out when it came to like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. That kind of told me to like, let me see what our gaming ancestors had
Yeah.
back in the day and see like what I could like play over there. And I'm saying like I'm having a grandiose time playing like games like There's Jam Fight for New York. I'm playing Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2 right now. I'm playing like Pokemon XD uh on Dolphin. I'm like, man, I don't know. It's just that fun factor that I had when I was a kid
Yeah.
was kind of like preserved, but nowadays everything's kind of more going for more like a blockbuster AAA movie-esque type of games now. I mean, that's cool and all. That's cool and all, but looking at to how like my brain functions and I kind of like take things in kind of like fast bits in a way, and
Mm-hmm.
everything's kind of more like theatrical with motion capturing and more heavy dialogue scenes. I give developers credit for that because that is very hard to pull off when it comes to like getting a schedule right, getting the
Mm-hmm.
motion capture suits right, getting the actors well and fed and able to perform the movements that they have to do on set so they can later be put in the software so they can be shown on the big screen once everybody gets the game for at least about $60 to $70 on whatever platform they got.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'd rather just be sitting at home watching all these cutscenes like on YouTube or something like that. I mean, it kind of beats the purpose of that me playing the game. It's like sure, the gameplay kind of complements the story narrative of it, but at the same time, I don't want the narrative be like a super duper focal point of it unless I personally want it to be like that. That's why I kind of like arcade style games like Street Fighter,
Mm-hmm. Or it's just like the
KOF.
gameplay comes first.
Yes. Because
Mm-hmm.
if the gameplay comes first or something like that, or it's like coming at me like in short bits or something like that, it's easy for me to digest and I'm able to come back a lot more.
Yeah. So would you say like that, playing old games in that experience, learning about that and just experiencing that in terms of just playing old games like Street Fighter and stuff, like these arcade games, would you say that went to making your own game, like Food Raiders Mini?
That Yeah, that actually did kind of spark my interest in getting something like that. But it also, this is kind of like also another story within that because that was kind of like when Food Raiders came out, the first version of Food Raiders before Mini came out. That was my first ever project using Unity and publishing it out.
Mm-hmm.
I've been struggling for like almost a decade trying to get a project coming out with Unity, and I've been all over the place with making like games like The Quest for the Golden Potato. I use RPG Maker on that.
Mm-hmm.
I made another game on IndieDB.com called The Simple Collection. I use Game Maker for that. It was kind of like in the like small bursts, and I always, at some point when I was making those, going back to Unity, trying to see when I was going, trying to see what I was gonna go with that. And then when Food Raiders came out, when I finished finally making Food Raiders, I said like, "Yep, I feel accomplished in a way, even though the game is somewhat broken in some pieces, which I later fixed in Food Raiders Mini. I'm very satisfied of how I went about my process and how did I manage to learn from making that game in particular.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of food raiders, I believe the Quest of the Golden Potato, right? Was that your first game?
Yes.
Was that your first game?
Uh, uh, the first game I published was the Simple Collection, and then the bigger one that I made was the Quest for the Golden Potato.
Okay, so what was like your first experience playing like your finished game? Because like me hearing Rupture for like the first time, like finished, fully mixed, and everything, like it was a surreal experience because I like everything. I put like all my blood, sweat, and tears into this album. You know, it's definitely a surreal experience. So just like taking to another creative project, how did it feel? You know, playing your first like finished, like done game.
Man, when, when it came to me finishing the Quest of the Golden Potato, I did feel like that sense of accomplishment when I did finish making it
Mm.
after like testing certain seeds to see like did it had any bugs or anything like that. And I'm glad that most of the bugs are out. I don't know if there are any new ones that came about, but from when I played for like the couple of times I did play it when I first was making it, I did feel that sense of accomplishment once I finished everything and I pressed that publish button on both NEDB and itch.io. I was kind of ecstatic. Just like,
Mm-hmm.
hey man, the game
Like,
is out.
like
I've
shit,
been
I did
promoting it.
it. You know.
Yeah, the game is out. I've been promoting it for like the past couple of months, and you guys can play it now. So and give me feedback, what you know, so whenever you have the time
Yeah.
to. So
Mm-hmm. Like for me, a Rupture, like I was so ecstatic. You know, releasing the album at nine, like it was like 8:50, 8:57, 8:58, 9. I was like jumping in the air, like I just go, I did it, I dropped my album, you know. So I can definitely relate to you on like that, you know, just finishing your game, like shit, let's finally, I did it. It's just so satisfying, you know. Seeing your work of art up, you know, even just like before my album was done on like platforms, just hearing it for like the finished product, you know, before it was gone or up, before it was up, not gone. It was like,
yeah.
wow, let's
Mm.
go. So experiencing that, um, how did you feel on your second project, Food Raiders? Did you feel the same thing? Did
I
you
actually felt
learn something? Obviously, you learned something, but like, what was that? Did you learn something in terms of finishing Food Raiders from the Quest of the Golden Potato?
um when it came to me finishing Food Raiders, I feel like that there was like this different type of satisfaction between Food Raiders and the Quest of Golden Potato because I had a little bit more experience with RPG Maker compared to Unity because the only thing that was kind of like dragging me down when it came to Unity was programming. Programming is like I said earlier, programming is still kind of like a struggle to me, but I also kind of understand it at the same time. But when it came to like me finishing Food Raiders, getting the basic logic down for the player, the character to like be able to take down enemy rats and such, I said like, you know what? I'm glad that I managed to get it out. I'm glad that I managed to get this project out the best way
Mm-hmm.
that I can, and I'm able to see later down the line. I had to make like a update patch for it because I know like the menu wasn't either wasn't the menu wasn't working or the character or there was like some kind of bug that the player just to get to the next stage.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that kind of hindered me from like giving it like a big dub in a kind of way,
Yeah.
which kind of like was which kind of moved into like Food Raiders Mini, which kind of like me redoing Food Raiders one,
Mm-hmm.
but kind of making it a little bit more streamlined and a lot more easier for me with that experience to make. And I said, like, you know what? This is the best version that I have for Food Raiders and such. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what's even crazier?
So.
Uh, my plan when I finished Food Raiders, I was actually supposed to put it on Xbox.
Really? That would have been cool.
Yeah, yeah. I had this is like there was like this program. I mean, there is still this program. This called the Xbox. Um, what's this called? This like this dev program. This like this developer program that Xbox and Windows has, and it allows you to spend at least $20, 19 to $20, to allow you to have like the development part of the Xbox. Like you can have like a
Wow.
retail Xbox and access dev mode on there.
That's
And
cool.
there's like this one, and then there's this one section in the Xbox store that allows you to say like, oh wait, it's called the Creators Collection. There we go. That's the name I was thinking about. There's like this tab in the Xbox store called the Creators Collection. And I was saying like, yeah, this is the place I gotta go to like at least get some feedback or some notoriety on my game that I made or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to get that game up and running, getting the Xbox Live servers and such up,
Mm-hmm.
and then doing some bug fixes. And then right when I felt like setting the publish button and such and trying to get it working with the Microsoft Store, I was starting to experience some problems with connectivity with Xbox Live
Damn.
and such. And even made it more worse when the Series X and S was being revealed and they was giving news out just saying like they updating the Microsoft Store to the current one that they have now on Xbox. They removed that tab entirely. So that's gonna be
What? That
they
sucks.
removed that tab entirely. So I was like, man, that kind of killed the dream of me like putting it on Xbox,
That's
because
so
that's gonna
unlucky.
like yeah, that hurts viewability for people to like see your game
Yeah.
specifically dedicated to that tab. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what? I might as well not publish it then.
Mm. Yeah, that sounds super unlucky. That sucks. You know, seeing like obviously most people can't relate to this, but like an analogy to it is like releasing like your creative project and then boom, you just can't. It won't let you. You know, that's really
Mm-hmm.
tough. Like I've never experienced that in my terms of just like in my experience making a song or releasing an album or a project, but that really sucks. You know, like seeing all of that go boom. But I hope you bounce back. You know, it's gonna be great to see Food Raiders. You know, on Xbox Live. You know, on PlayStation, on Steam, etc. You know, that's gonna be really cool. Or your next project and stuff on those major
Yeah.
platforms. So my last question, it's kind of back to music. Your name is DJ Shad on Spotify, iTunes, and stuff. So, what are kind of like your influences as an artist? Towards that hip hop, jazzy sound. What kind of like inspires you to make that sound? Because for me, for Rupture, my main inspiration was Daft Punk, The Weeknd, Rich Brian, Joji. Those kind of artists, kind of influenced me to make the sound I had on Rupture, and still huge inspirations for me in making music. So for you, what are kind of your inspirations for making music?
For me, uh, most of it's like if I can say like from the timeline between like life insanity, I could say like it's more like the experimental era. So I was more or less trying to figure out what did I want to do
Mm-hmm.
and such. But now from like currently now, since I kind of like got myself a little bit more better taste and like what I kind of like when it comes to like producing and what it's kind of like I kind of enjoy making like boom bap type beats and kind of like similar to like how like Ninth Wonder, then Jubez, let's see, let's see, it was like I'm trying to say like Ninth Wonder and then Jubis, Knowledge, and even kind of like more of like less kind of like funkishness to it, to like G funk in a way,
Mm.
with like something a little bit more organic in a way, similar to like how like the Neptunes with like Pharrell and Chad Wong with their type of music.
Yeah.
So kind of like finding like amalgamation of those two, because it's like those, because a common thing that is in those two is that like there's always the electronic part to it, and there's always like a sample being chopped, a whether it's from like an audio CD or something like that, or it's from like a copyrighted sample.
Mm.
Because there's always be like that certain parts in that song that you like, and it's like, let,
Yeah, what if I chop that up?
let
You
me
know?
go flip that, and let me see
Yeah.
if I can like, yeah, let me go chop that up and let me flip it and see how it turns out. And that's where I think that's a heavy inspiration for me putting out demos publicly on like specifically on Instagram. Like I like have like a boatload of demo. Well, not a boatload, but I have like short clips, like 1 minute clips of like beats I make or something like that, with either from like pad sounds I find from like this 90s CD archive I found, or from like some jazz or 60s, 70s, maybe 80s tracks that I did like, and said like, you know what? Let me chop some parts up and use it to my advantage to see like how it comes out. And a couple of them, like the one I use for like Sonic Jam, I really like that one. I'm still listening to that one. I said like, you know what? That is pretty good. That is pretty good.
Yeah.
And also, because I think it was an inspiration when it came to me making that demo specifically, is because I saw this is I think he's like I think he go by the producer Moderate Mark. I say like, now that's dope. I always like Sonic Jam's music, and I said like I like how we turned his version of this, how we flipped his version. So I said like, all right, let me do my interpretation of it.
Mm.
So I use the same sample you use, and I kind of chopped it up in my way. So I would say like, you know what, that's pretty cool right there.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Even though it's behind the scenes, you guys don't know, but it went a lot of trouble. But thank you so much for your time. Make sure to check out Rashad, our Underrated Mastermind, on Spotify as DJ Shad on his latest record, Beat Tape Hornet, or on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/DJ Shad 305, or on Twitter, Underrated Mastermind. Make sure to follow him and stuff. Thank you so much, Rashad, for being on the podcast and the show.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure interviewing you, my friend. Thank you so much. Hope everyone has a good day, and we'll see you all next week, 10 a.m. PST. Have a good day.